Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Steve Orma. I am a clinical psychologist and a specialist in treating insomnia. And today what I want to talk about is the cure for insomnia. Yes, there is a cure for insomnia. And what I want to start off with first is what doesn't work. Like what is not a cure for insomnia. And basically pretty much everything out there that people try to cure their insomnia doesn't work and usually make the insomnia worse. So for example, medication, probably number one. Medication, whether it's over-the-counter medication, whether it's prescribed medication from your doctor, or even things like herbal remedies and supplements, none of these things will cure the insomnia, and they will all make the insomnia worse over time. Now, why is that? The reason for that is they don't get to the underlying causes of insomnia, which I will get to in a little bit. They just treat the symptoms of insomnia, which is trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep, waking up early in the morning, not feeling good the next day, managing sleep anxiety. So they address the symptoms, those symptoms, but they don't get to the underlying causes that are creating and maintaining the insomnia. And then what makes it worse is most of these substances will interfere with your normal sleep pattern and interfere deep sleep and REM sleep. So you don't, even if you get like a full night of sleep, the quality of the sleep is very poor. So you don't feel that good the next day. And then there's all kinds of side effects from the medications, right? You have a foggy feeling or you're just kind of out of it. It also takes a long time for most of these medications to actually get out of your system because they have a really long half-life, which is the amount of time it takes for that to be metabolized in your system. On top of that, they create a lot of what's called psychological dependency, and you get to believe that I am dependent on this substance, whatever it is, to sleep, that I cannot sleep on my own, and without it, I won't be able to sleep, which raises your anxiety around sleep and makes you dependent on that substance. And then you build up tolerance over time with that substance. And that means that you're going to need to take more of the same medication, or you're going to need to switch medications to get the same effect. So this is not a good, even short-term solution for insomnia. Now, if you take medication or you take substances, don't feel bad. I don't blame you for that. The problem is like the system, and most medical doctors, when you go to them and say that you have a problem with sleep, will generally prescribe a medication. And that is the wrong thing to do. And we can talk about in a little while why they do that then if it doesn't really work. But basically medications, that's number one. Number two, things like sleep hygiene. So if you Google, insomnia on the internet, usually what the advice they'll give you is what's called sleep hygiene. Now, sleep hygiene are things like, getting off your blue light devices like your computer and your phone and your tablet, like an hour before you go to bed, or reducing your caffeine intake during the day, or exercising. Now, all of these things are really good things to do, and they will help your sleep, but they will not cure insomnia. Once you have insomnia, and let me just take a side note here. So then what is insomnia? Insomnia is not just trouble sleeping. Insomnia is trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, feeling crappy during the day, and doing that at least 3 nights a week for a couple of months. So that's when you know you have insomnia. It has to reach a certain level of severity, and it has to be maintained for a certain period of time. Once your sleep gets to that state, sleep hygiene, those things will not cure the insomnia. They might help your sleep a little bit, but usually all they'll do is make you feel really frustrated because they're not working. The other things that don't work are things like meditation and I don't know what else, relaxation exercises. All these things are good and can be helpful, but by themselves will not cure insomnia once it is set in. Okay? So what is the cure for insomnia? Well, it is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or CBT-I. Now, CBT-I is really the only treatment out there that's really a treatment for insomnia, because it is a full, structured, step-by-step treatment that's been extensively studied on thousands of patients with insomnia and has been proven over again and again to be extremely effective for curing insomnia, and in 90% of the time, reducing or eliminating medication or any substance, no matter how long you've been taking it and no matter how long you've had insomnia. So it is a cure for insomnia, even if you've had it for 30 years or 40 years. It doesn't matter how long. So this is the most effective treatment. It's a non-medication, non-drug treatment. If you are already taking medication, part of the treatment is showing you how to wean off or taper off your medication in a safe way, so you can sleep without any substances for the rest of your life. Now, why does CBT-I work? Well, as I was mentioning earlier, things like medication and all the other things I went over, they don't get to the root cause. The root cause of insomnia is poor sleep behaviors and negative sleep thoughts. So it's the way you're thinking about your sleep, and it's the way you're acting and behaving with your sleep. Now, there's always a trigger to insomnia. So sometimes people will say, well, what's causing my insomnia is my anxiety or my depression or my pain or my medication, another medication you might be taking, or there's a stressor going on in your life. Now, it is true that insomnia always has some kind of trigger, like where it affects your sleep and causes poor sleep for a few nights. But that is not what causes insomnia, which is not just a few nights of poor sleep, but what I described earlier, and it's not what maintains insomnia. So what happens is there's a trigger, and even once that trigger goes away, once the insomnia is set in, it won't go away, even once you remove the stressor or the trigger. And so what sets it in is, in reaction to having a few poor nights of sleep, you get really anxious about not sleeping and you start worrying about it. And then in response to that worry, you start practicing what are called poor sleep behaviors. And there's a lot of them, but some of them are sleeping in on weekends, even sleeping late during the week, going to bed earlier, taking naps during the day, taking medication. All of these things are going to make the sleep worse, going to increase your anxiety, and going to make insomnia set in, meaning it just like reset your sleep pattern so you can't sleep very well. And what actually happens is you start to train yourself to be awake in the bed. Now, you're not doing this purposely. It's just people do this unknowingly. You think you're trying to improve your sleep by doing all these things, but in fact, you're making your sleep worse. So what CBT-I does is it reverses all of those behaviors. It teaches you techniques to be able to reverse that pattern and eliminate the poor sleep behaviors, establish positive sleep behaviors, and also be able to get rid of the sleep anxiety and the worry that you have around your sleep. And so it's a completely natural treatment that works with the way that your body normally sleeps and helps it to get back on track. Now, what does CBT-I involve? So as I said, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. So let's break that down. Cognitive, that means your thoughts, your thinking, your beliefs around your sleep. So that was what I said earlier, your negative sleep thoughts like, oh my God, what if I don't sleep tonight? I'm going to feel like crap tomorrow. I'm never going to get over this. Those are negative sleep thoughts, and those increase anxiety and frustration, which wakes you up, which makes it harder to sleep, which makes the insomnia worse or maintains it. So that gets addressed. Then the behavioral part of CBT is the poor sleep behaviors. It's changing those behaviors, establishing new positive sleep behaviors that get your sleep back on track and cure the insomnia. And then the therapy. Now, this is not, CBT-I is not therapy. Like, you don't go and just talk about your sleep problems with the therapist. You don't just sit in a chair and talk about how crappy your sleep is and that's all you do. It's not like regular talk therapy that you would go to for most other things. What it is a very structured treatment that's really almost like a class or like education around your sleep that teaches you a lot of really powerful, effective skills and techniques that then you go and you apply that in your sleep each week. So generally, CBT-I is delivered over 6 to 8 weeks in these different modules, and each module teaches you something new each week that then you go and apply to your sleep over that week between your sessions, and then you come back and you learn another more techniques that you apply for the next week. And it's like a layered treatment. Each week you're learning one more thing that you add to the previous week. And then what that does is it slowly, gradually transforms your sleep and eliminates the insomnia. And then in addition to that, you would track your sleep, meaning you'll have a sleep diary where you track certain aspects of your sleep. And that's extremely important because it tells whoever is working with you and tells you, how your sleep is doing and where you're improving and where you're not improving and where specifically are the problems. So even though it's a very structured treatment, it's a very individualized and personalized treatment because everybody's insomnia is a little bit different. And you need to tailor the treatment to fit your individual problems that you're dealing with the insomnia in order for it to be really effective. So that's basically how the treatment goes. So it's pretty simple. It's not complicated treatment, but it is challenging. So that's the one thing. It is not, it's much easier to just pop a pill or to meditate for 20 minutes, to be able to sleep. Unfortunately, those things, as I said earlier, are not going to actually cure your insomnia. So they're just Band-Aids or temporary things that might help your sleep a little bit, but in the long run is not going to help it and it's going to make it worse. CBT-I takes effort, and it normally takes somewhere between 6 to 8 weeks for it to be effective and for it to actually transform your sleep and to cure the insomnia. But even though it takes effort, the payoff is it'll cure your insomnia. And it also maintains. So it doesn't have any side effects because you're not taking any substances. And you can then maintain your sleep for the rest of your life because now you have these techniques. You've been through this. You know how to maintain and manage your sleep over the rest of your life. At any point, if your sleep, if you have a few poor nights of sleep, you'll know exactly how to get your sleep back on track without going to a pill or a substance or something like that. You'll just know how to maintain your sleep. So it's powerful not only for helping you overcome the insomnia in the shorter term, but also to maintain that for the rest of your life. So why is CBT-I some of you maybe have never even heard of this treatment, even though it is the only effective treatment out there for insomnia, and it's extremely effective in terms of helping people solve this problem. Why haven't you heard about it? And some of you maybe you have heard about it, but a lot of people haven't. And the reason for that is, I think, the lack of emphasis and importance of addressing sleep. Now, it's become lately much more out there in the media to be able to, that sleep is really important and that it's as important, if not more important than diet and exercise and other health things that have gotten a lot more attention and a lot more talk about them. But sleep now is becoming one of those things that people are realizing, hey, why are we sleeping? Why do we need to sleep 7, 8 hours a night, every night? Every creature on earth has to sleep. There must be some important function to this, and there is. And that if you're not getting good sleep, it's going to impact you on every level, right? And it impacts your mood, your energy. It can literally, when you have insomnia, it can really kind of take over your life. It's hard to do good work. It's dangerous to drive your car. It impacts so many different things that it's a fundamental, foundational thing that we need to be able to sleep well and to be able to do that consistently. And insomnia obviously is in conflict with that. So I think part of it is just that the importance of sleep is just now more recently coming out, and people are paying a lot more attention to it. Number two is when a person has a sleep problem, who do they normally go to? They normally will go to their doctor and say, I'm having problems sleeping. What should I do? And I don't know, 90% or more of the time, what your doctor will recommend is a medication. They'll want to prescribe you Ambien or Trazodone or a benzodiazepine like Xanax. And that is the wrong thing to do. Now, why do they do that? Well, because medical doctors receive something like an hour or an hour and a half's worth of training in their entire medical school training. So over 4 to 8 years in their medical training, they receive an hour and a half's worth of training on sleep, which is kind of, they learn basically what you could learn 15 minutes on the internet, just Googling sleep. And that's ridiculous. So then when they are dealing with sleep, when people are coming in reporting they're having trouble sleeping, they don't know what else to do other than to prescribe a medication, because that's what they do for everything else. And unfortunately, it's the same thing with people in my field. I'm a psychologist, and psychologists are not trained to deal with sleep problems. I received zero training in my graduate training as I was going through that in sleep, even though I saw people with anxiety and depression, and a lot of these people were dealing with sleep problems and were dealing with insomnia, but it doesn't get addressed. And so how I got into it is I got insomnia myself a few years after I became a psychologist, and I had to cure my own insomnia. I had to go and do the research and figure out how to overcome this problem. And I found the CBT-I, and I was able to cure my own insomnia in 8 weeks. It was gone. I haven't had it back since. And now I know how to maintain my sleep. So then I started using it and working with my clients, because I specialize in anxiety, and a lot of them deal with insomnia. And so I started, working with my clients with insomnia and seeing that it was effective with them as well. And now I've done that for several years. So this is, so the reason why, going back to why you may not have heard of this treatment, is because most people that you would go to, professionals in the mental health field, in the medical field, they don't know anything about it. And so they'll just tell you what they know. And usually that's medication or an herbal remedy or meditation or something like that, which, as I said, is not effective. And then it usually leads to you becoming more frustrated and hopeless. So, one of my goals with this, is to be able to sort of blast out there and let people know about this treatment, because it's virtually like a magic bullet for insomnia that virtually no one knows about. And it's something that people just suffer with, for years, and it's unnecessary, because you can go through this treatment and you can overcome your insomnia. Now, what is the evidence that this treatment works? Well, in addition to my own personal experience with it and my experience working with many, many clients with insomnia and seeing it work with them, it's also the most studied treatment. It's been studied for the last, 20 years at least, on thousands of patients with insomnia. And it doesn't matter the age. It doesn't matter how old. It's been studied with people in their 80s and their 90s, and it's been studied for people that are much younger than that, in their 20s and their 30s and 40s. Doesn't matter what your race is, what your gender is. It has been proven to be an effective treatment. It's also the number one first line recommended treatment by every sort of medical and psychological association and group. So the National Institutes of Health, the American College of Physicians, Consumer Reports, what else? The National Sleep Foundation. I mean, basically, every one of these organizations recommends CBT-I as the first line treatment for insomnia. So that is why it works, because it's backed up by science and many studies over many years. And then I know from my own personal experience and my own professional experience that it's highly effective. So, is there anything else that I wanted to say here? I mean, I think it's a good introduction here to CBT-I, just so you know about it and you know why it's effective, and you know at least generally why medication and these other remedies that most people try do not work and will not work for your insomnia. So in future videos, I'll get into a lot more details about these different things, but if you like this video and you found it helpful, then please, click like and comment below and let me know if you found it helpful and what specifically was helpful. And then is there anything else that you would want to know about insomnia? I'm going to be doing a lot more videos and talking about a lot of different aspects of insomnia and how to overcome it. But if you have specific questions, let me know, because then I can, potentially do a video to respond to that question. All right, so hope you have a good rest of your day, and I will see you next time.